Uber Elder. The very name strikes fear in the heart of exiles throughout Rayclast. Few have stood to face this pair of abominations, and fewer have lived to tell. What am I talking about? Uber Elder is super easy this league. So, I farmed 100 of them. For science. Welcome, it's your friendly neighbourhood Badger here, and I am back with a very large project I have just completed, running 100 Uber Elders in the 3.9 Metamorph League. Now there's some extremely interesting data that I have gained from all of this, so I'm pretty much just going to jump right into it. But before I do, if you want to follow along, there is a link to a spreadsheet down below, which has pretty much everything on it as well. Let's get right into it. Now, first of all, I gave myself some rules for farming Uber Elder. You know, they're not that strict, but they're good to follow. The first rule is I must purchase all fragments at the current market price. Now, this doesn't mean that I purchased all the fragments in one bulk buy. That would be a lot of money. What I did was purchase them at market price and then did some runs, sold what I got and got money back and started purchasing again. This means that I could basically cycle through all the currency that I would make to keep everything up. Number two, all the Watcher's Eyes dropped are to be sold unidentified for the most consistent results. So that does mean no gambling IDing, looking for those Clarity ES mods or the Impale Watcher's Eye mods. We're selling them unidentified because they sell for a very pretty penny if you do not identify them. Number three, every item collected must be priced and sold at the market price. So as I find an item, I list it straight away at the price that is on the market. So for any unique drops, sometimes I might get a good unique that has good rolls, and then I will sell it for the roll that it is most situated for. So, you know, some things like the rings, they can sell for a pretty penny if you get some good rolls. Number four, all the runs are timed, and this is from when Shaper is targetable. So keep that in mind. This is pretty much just for my own sake. I wanted to see how fast I could do Uber Elder and the kind of average time it would take to do a run. Number five, all the data must be collated into a sick-ass spreadsheet. As I mentioned before, down below, get that link, follow along, really, really interesting. I laid it out really nice as well with some lovely, lovely colors so you can see everything very nicely, even a pie graph in there. Ooh, beautiful. And number six, do not stop until 100 Uber Elder runs are complete, no matter the market cost of fragments or the price of the Watcher's Eyes to sell. Now, this doesn't mean that I did them all in one sitting. Don't mistake that. What it really means is, you know, if I get a good profit within like 50 runs, I can't just stop it there and go like, hey, I was just going to do 50 runs. No, I said to myself from the very beginning, doing 100 runs, and we're seeing what kind of profit we get out of that. So I had to go all the way through before I made this video and collated the data. Brilliant. We are just going to move on. And firstly, we are going to look at the unique item drops. Straight away, you can see that initially, we dropped 33 Mark of the Elder Iron Rings. We then dropped 27 Mark of the Shaper Opal Rings. The next unique item was Indigon. We dropped 16 Indigons. We dropped 11 Void Fletchers. We dropped 8 Disintegrators. We dropped 4 Void Forgers, so, you know, one in every 25 runs. Now, this is very interesting, the next one. Only 1 Eternity Shroud. It is quite rare, and for good reason. It's a pretty insane chest if you build around it properly. Now, I know that you're all waiting for probably this last one here. How many Watcher's Eyes did Badger drop? 22 Watcher's Eyes. Pretty good, pretty good. These are your biggest profit margins of everything that you do make here, but that's what we're going to talk about now. The chaos that we got from all of this. Now, just keep in mind that I'm not going to be showing the Exalt results. I'm going to be converting it all into Chaos because at the moment, at this point in the league, Exalts are fluctuating up and down. So the stable currency is Chaos. Straight away, you can see that we earned 1,304 Chaos from selling all of our Mark of the Elder Rings. Some good rolls, some bad rolls, that sort of thing. We then got just a little bit less for Mark of the Shaper, 1,155 Chaos. Indigons, they don't sell for heaps, but we did get a couple of good rolls, so we got about 315 Chaos from these. Now the Void Fletchers, these are great quivers. People love to corrupt them as well, so they sold for a total of 3,407 chaos. The Disintegrator staff is honestly not great, so we in the 8 of these we only got 115 chaos. Our Void Forges, again, you know, they're not great. I know that Mathel is doing a Void Forge build at the moment, so these could definitely have gone up pretty soon, or already, but when I sold them, I got a total of 100 chaos, around 25 chaos per Void Forge. Now, the Eternity Shroud, as it is very rare, it also costs quite a bit, so we got 1,764 chaos from this chest piece. Yes, the Watcher's Eyes were by far the most profitable, and that is very much to be expected, selling them unidentified. We earned 38,943 chaos from selling all of these Watcher's Eyes, which is pretty interesting. That does bring a grand total of all of the unique items to 47,103 chaos. Now, we did also get a few I-86 rares of Elder and Shaper bases that were notable, and we sold them all together for a total of 380 chaos, which does bring everything to 483 chaos with 47,000 just, you know, tacked onto the end of that. So you can see pretty good revenue with what we found here. But the revenue is not the important part. The important thing is profit. So we're going to move on to that just in a moment, but first of all, I'll just quickly show you a little graph. This is pretty much what you saw before, but you can see the divvying up of all the unique drops. One thing to note is that you can see here that there are 100 unique item drops in 100 runs. Only one item can drop from Uber Elder within the unique item drop pool. The other thing to keep in mind, the Watcher's Eyes, as you can see we got 22 of them, the Watcher's Eyes are not a part of this 100 run drop rate. They are a separate pool, basically. So they drop around about 1 in 4, I think. 1 in 4 runs. Okay, now let's have a look at the profit. The cost, revenue, and profit to be exact. Initially, the cost of all of these fragments together was 41,684 chaos. Quite a bit of an investment, as you can see there. The revenue, as stated before, was 47,483 chaos, which brings us to a grand total profit of 5,799 chaos. Now, you may be thinking this isn't a massive amount of profit for 100 runs, and you're kind of right, it's not. There is a reason for that though, and we'll get into that soon, but I'm just going to have a look at a couple more pieces of data on the cost, revenue, and profit here. First of all, the average cost per run was 416.84 chaos, which does mean that the average profit per run is 57.99 chaos, pretty much 58 chaos average profit per run. That does bring us to probably, I would say, is the most interesting lot of data we have here, which is the Watcher's Eye data. So, as stated before, we dropped 22 unidentified Watcher's Eyes. This equated to 4.55 runs per 1 drop of Watcher's Eye, which means 22%. 22 drops, 22%. Pretty easy if you're doing 100 runs. Hey. The stated average, the average that most people go by for, you know, how many Watcher's Eyes drops, as stated before, happen per run is basically 4 runs per Watcher's Eye drop. 25% of the time you're going to get a Watcher's Eye drop. This does mean that if we go by that average, we are 3% below average. We dropped 3 less Watcher's Eyes than what we should have averagely. The average sell cost for a Watcher's Eye is 1,770 chaos. Well, 0.14 if you want to be exact. This does mean that if we received the average amount of Watcher's Eyes, as stated before, 25 Watcher's Eyes in 100 runs, we would have earned an extra 5,310.42 chaos, which is almost doubling our profit if we got the average. This is something really, really interesting to keep in mind. The profit gains from running Uber Elder are very, very volatile. So I still made a profit, but I could have made almost double profit if I was averagely lucky. The longest streak of Watcher's Eyes drops in a row was 4 runs in a row we got Watcher's Eyes, which is pretty good. However, we had a longest dry spell of 13 Watcher's Eyes, or 13 runs without a Watcher's Eye, I should say, which that was a bit unlucky. We then got 1 Watcher's Eye, and then after that we also had a run dry of 12, which set quite a dint in our profit gain, which was pretty interesting. This does mean that basically the loss during the dry spell, if we dropped the average amount of Watcher's Eyes during that dry spell, which would have been, 3.25 Watcher's Eyes, we would have got an extra 5,418 chaos. So we did kind of lose 5,418 chaos because we did not drop the average amount during that dry spell, which is quite a lot. But that's all the Watcher's Eye data, or most of it. There may still be a couple of things in the spreadsheet. If you are following along, you could probably have a little look at them. But we're going to move on to some miscellaneous data that I did collect, which is also still very interesting. So, first of all, the average time per run. As stated before, this timer starts when Shaper is targetable, when you can start damaging Shaper. Average time per run is 1 minute 48 seconds. The shortest run we made was 1 minute 36 seconds, and the longest run was exactly 1 minute longer, 2 minutes 36 seconds. Now, we did have a couple of deaths in that run there, and a couple of stuff-ups in putting our auras back on, so it took us a little bit long to get back into the arena. That one was pretty interesting. The most profit that we made in a single run was 1,681 chaos, which is pretty nice. It was like, 11, 12x at the time, just from one single run. The biggest loss in a single run was 446 chaos. Now, you can't really lose more than the average cost for the run, so that's why it's only 446. We can't lose like 800 chaos in a run because we only put in a certain amount. So keep that in mind. The peak profit. Okay, this is an extremely interesting stat. The peak profit was made at run number 59. At the end of run number 59, we had a profit of 10,621 chaos, meaning that if we just stopped right there, we would have got the most profit that we could have possibly got in this run. It was pretty much all downhill from there. As I said, we got a dry spell of 13, dry spell of 12, ended with about 5,000 chaos profit instead of 10,000, which is pretty interesting. So if you get a good streak, I would definitely say stop there. Now to the deaths. Yes, I'm playing on softcore, and yes, I don't pay enough attention as I possibly could, so we did die 16 times during these 100 runs, which does equate to 0.18 deaths per run, which, is pretty interesting. And the build that we did use was our Herald of Purity Necromancer. Now, I'm going to put a link to the pastebin in the description, but you may already know this build. There will also be a link to the build guide for this build in the description as well. It's a very fast build. As you can see, we can do an average of 1 minute 48 second Uber Elder runs. Very, very nice. And super tanky as well, so we definitely shouldn't have had 16 deaths. We were playing a little bit silly. So, that does bring us to the biggest question of all. Is it worth it? Is it worth it to run Uber Elder this league? I'm going to go through the pros and cons, and then I'm going to give you a little bit of my own personal take on everything. But first of all, one of the pros is it is very profitable if you just have average luck. If you drop 1 in 4 Watcher's Eyes, you just gain currency really, really good. It's very profitable in that way. You can stop after a lucky string of eyes for max profit. If you get 3 or 4 eyes in a row, you'll have really, really good profit, and you can just stop there and then, rake it in, go invest it into your build, do some more gambling, whatever you want to do. It's a great way to do it like that. And look, you do get to pwn tentacle monsters over and over again. Now, that could be a fetish for a few of you. Not gonna lie, so it's a pretty good boss to run if you're into that kind of, long, dangly appendage stuff. But there are a few cons as well. Definitely not the appendage part. It is very expensive to start. As I said, it's around about 450, 470 chaos per run. So very expensive to start, which does also mean it can run you dry if you are unlucky in the beginning of your runs. if you run 5 to 10 runs without getting a Watcher's Eye drop, that's going to put a massive dent in your wallet. So keep that in mind. It is also not suited for gamblers in the PoE community, meaning you probably shouldn't ID the eyes. Most of the time, you're not going to get good profit. Look, I know that MB Extreme, I think he did a video recently of him IDing heaps, and he got massive amounts of profit, but let me tell you, he got so extremely lucky. That's probably not going to happen to you. So unless you want to, run the risk of just splurging way too much currency, hoping for a good 2 or 3 mod Watcher's Eye, just sell them unidentified. It's the best way to go about it. And lastly, it is very repetitive. I found at around 70, 80 runs, I was getting really bored of the fight. It was taking a lot of effort. I just kind of wanted to keep making a new build. I wanted to do other content, but I said that I had to stick through, so I stuck through. I wouldn't recommend doing 100. I'd say, go until you get a good 3 or 4 Watcher's Eyes in a row, and then you're good. But that's pretty much it. In conclusion, I do think that Uber Elder is pretty profitable this league. However, you do want quite a bit of investment going into it. You want to know that you're going into it with the potential of losing quite a lot. It is still a bit of a gamble, basically. Not going to lie. Most of PoE is a gamble. This is no exception. However, with things like averages, the more that you do, the more that will even out, and the more consistent profit that you will get the more that you do. So if you're looking for a good endgame goal or something like that to just get lots of currency, this is a way to do it. Now, at the time of the video, as I'm saying, this is a good way of doing it. Who knows whether this video coming out will mean that prices might change. If people, if more people are running this, prices are going to drop, meaning it's not going to be as profitable. So keep that in mind as well. Don't take everything I say here as gospel for the future of the league or coming leagues to come. As stated before, we are in 3.9 Metamorph League, so if you're watching this at a later date, this is just for this period in time, about, a month and a bit into the league. That's pretty much all I have to say. This was really eye-opening, really interesting. I had a hunch that some pretty good profit could come out of it. I'm a little bit sad that I didn't get, even just the average amount of Watcher's Eyes. I would have got much more chaos out of it. Or, if I got a little bit lucky as well, could have even made 12 to 15,000 chaos instead of only 5,700. But thank you so much for watching, guys. That is pretty much it for this video. I will say, I've said in a couple of other videos, but as you can probably tell, I'm really starting to get a lot more content out, and it would just absolutely mean the world to me if you were to hit the subscribe down below. You tune into everything that I create, because I'm having lots of fun, putting lots of energy and making all of this stuff look really cool, really interesting data. And, if you're ever free, come and say hi to me on stream at twitch.tv/thisisbadgergaming. There will be a link down below as well. Come and say hi. I'm more than happy to answer questions on stream. We've got a super friendly little community at the moment going on there, so you'll be very welcome. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. And until next time, Badger out.